I think that being ready is kind of an illusion. Because if you wait until you're fully ready to do something, then you're never gonna start.
Okay, that looks like it's gonna stay on.
Hey guys, we've got a bit of a different setup today. As you can tell, I'm in a forest right now. The weather's just been nice lately, and I thought I'd come outside after a string of very rainy, kind of nasty weather. So, if you don't know me, my name is Elena Delgado. I've been working on my debut novel project for about 6 years. I'm 17 right now, but I've been working on it since I was 11. It's something that I poured a lot of work into, and I really wanted to see it become something outside of my own head. And so this video is just about how I did it, what it is, and what it's about in the end if you're interested, which honestly, I would thank you so much. So I'm publishing my debut novel, A Universe Gone Awry. So the origin of the story is that I started writing when I was really little. I wrote my first book, which was kind of just copy paper stapled together, called All About Leaves. It just kind of sticked in leaves in there and wrote probably not correct information about how chlorophyll works. That was in preschool. That was before I really knew how to read, so I had to ask my mom to write the words for me. And when I was little, I also used to play a lot of pretend. I loved playing pretend. I just loved using my imagination. And so the world that the story takes place in came from me playing pretend as a little kid. And so when COVID hit, I was 10 or 11, which is kind of crazy to think it was that long ago. I was barely conscious at 10. But the world building for that story that I made, that didn't stop. I kept designing it and making more lore and just kind of loosely making it together in this Google Doc. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there's a ruby crowned kinglet above me and an American robin. I really love birding. That's one of the reasons why I'm out here right now. And so throughout lockdown, I worked on this project, and it started to kind of take shape as a novel, with a character and a protagonist and a pretty loose, unfinished plot about saving, chosen one saving the world. Super tropey, super one-dimensional. I worked on it with so much passion, but I had this distant dream of publishing it one day. But I honestly wasn't even confident enough in me as a writer that I should publish it yet. And so I held off for kind of a long time. And at the end of my 6th grade year, lockdown ended, and the project remained largely abandoned throughout middle school. After I started high school, I was diving around in my Google Drive, just looking at old stuff. And I came across A Universe Gone Awry. It was extremely rough around the edges, but it reignited the spark in me of just creativity and just joy. It gave me so much joy when I was younger, and I felt that same level of joy when I rediscovered it. The story potential was there, and it kind of reopened the floodgates of that simpler time where my whole life revolved around that world. As an 8-year-old, all I cared about was that world. It's called Avukena, by the way, just so that I don't keep having to say the world. And so then I spent all of my freshman year working on it just whenever I could, whenever I had the chance to, during boring classes or my free time after school. And when I was in 10th grade, as a sophomore, I was wait, I'm putting a lot of work into this. This is something that I can publish. And so then I talked to my parents, which is a necessary step if you are under the age of 18, because you cannot sign contracts on your own, and you cannot go to KDP on your own. And so if you want this to become, if you're a teenager like me and you want to become an author, you have to get some sort of guardian involved. After talking to them, I realized that it's more possible than I thought it was. And that brings me to today. And so why did I decide to do it now? I think that being ready is kind of an illusion. Because if you wait until you're fully ready to do something, then you're never gonna start. Or you'll wish that you just started sooner. But I don't know how to write. I suck at writing. I hear you. If you wait to start a project, you're not gonna get any better at it. So you have to start with something ugly like I did and just barf words onto a page and brainstorm on it in a way that only you will understand. And even if you end up abandoning said project, you can still pick up the pieces later, like I did. And I'm doing this all now because I've already put 6 years of my life into this, which as someone who's 17, that's a third of my life. And I've spent countless hours on Google Docs just editing and refining and making it as good as I can. And I want to see this story outside of my own head. It's something that's also just like deeply personal to me and like meaningful to me, as is most stories to their own people, I hope at least. I've dedicated a good part of my childhood to this universe, and it grew up with me. It's my place to talk about and ponder the things about the world that I don't fully understand, like the meaning of home, grief, moral grayscale, and things like that. And as my dad always tells me, there is no free lunch, and that includes publishing and professional editing, depending on which route you choose to go, of course. I chose to self-publish because it's, like, free, and I'm a teenager, I'm broke, and I don't have the money or the time to invest into trad publishing, an agent, and all that sort of things. And I think being in my position, I don't think I'd be very appealing to like small press and trad and everything like that. Originally, I was going to go that way. I was thinking about small press, but it was just too much of a risky investment for where I currently stood. And I don't just mean money either. I feel like it would be more stress than I can handle if I got a literary agent trying to convince presses that a teenager's book is actually quality enough to publish. I don't think that I would have been given the time of day if I chose to go that route. And budgeting is paramount if you are considering like getting serious about something like this. But deciding how much money and time you want to invest in things like that is important to consider. To write my novel, I just use Google Docs because that's what my school uses and that's the ecosystem that I know. And as a student of my high school specifically, I know not all schools do this, but we do get access to like Grammarly. Every student gets access to Grammarly. Not the AI version, just like the basic kind of bare bones version that just like does like edits for you and stuff. Because high schoolers aren't exactly known for being the best writers in the world. But, and this is a major caveat of Grammarly, it's not very helpful when it comes to prose and creative writing. Like, I remember I was on like in school one day and I had already gotten my book professionally edited. I did copy editing, which means that it was like error free. But then I like was like, okay, just for fun, let's run Grammarly and see how many mistakes it found. It found like I think 1,200, and it made the really crappy school Chromebook. It just like crashed, and that was kind of funny. But it also shows like what happens if you try to use Grammarly on something very prose related. I bet that if you put like an Edgar Allan Poe poem into Grammarly, it'll tell you all kinds of ways that it's incorrect. Google's grammar and spell check is pretty helpful, but it's also kind of dumb, which brings me to my next point. I'm choosing to use professional copy editing, which is what the bulk of my budget is for. I highly recommend this, especially if you're young like I am or you're going into self-pub. If I had to choose between developmental and copy editing, I would definitely go with the copy editing because I don't fully trust my abilities to copy edit my book to a decent standard. Especially because there's like a standard that publishers usually use called CMOS, the Chicago Manual of Style, and that is a little bit different than what we use conventionally. Like, for example, words that end in S, like bus, you know how you put like the apostrophe, like buses for plural? They recommend that you do buses apostrophe S, so there's 2 S's. And that was like very different for me. And so right now, as it stands, my draft is complete, and I'm getting help from my parents to buy the ISBNs and get copyrights for my book. And as for the timeline, this is extremely important. It's kind of businessy, but that's what a book is. You're trying to sell a product. I wrote like a 7-month timeline when I started all of this back in August. At the time of publishing this video, book has gone through professional editing to just like the final, like literally like the last revisions, because it's a little long, but it's standard for like YA fantasy. My cover is done. I made it myself, and I'm really proud of it because I do believe that I have like some graphic design skills, and I hope that you guys like it when that comes around. In fact, maybe by the end of this video you'll see it. I guess editing me will decide when to show it. And I'm working on the formatting and the legal stuff like ISBNs, copyrights, just the boring part. As for challenges that happen, it's obviously not the easiest thing in the world to write a book. If you're a fantasy writer or reader, you are going to know that the process can get extremely complicated, not even with just like the writing and technical stuff itself, but just like world building is a lot. Like, do you lore dump and tell them all of it? Do you put in an appendix, or do you just make it really simple, really easy, but also maybe a little boring? There's a lot of trade-offs when it comes to that. Then there's the trouble of like marketing. and having those days where you lose motivation or just are extremely busy, because like I have a life. I'm a junior in high school. I'm taking AP Lang and honors US history and all this stuff that gives me so much homework. This also leads me into the cycle of like toxic perfectionism, which I kind of struggled with like before I went into copy editing. It led me into a loop of like revising and revising and revising and not really changing much or getting much done. And until my work didn't really feel like my own voice anymore. Like when I first got serious about publishing, I felt locked down by an expectation that I had to make my work good enough to compete with the adults in the field, when that really wasn't the case. But here's why I think that despite the challenges, it is worth to publish now. I feel like I'll have learned a lot of lessons that will put me ahead of the game with a lot of stuff, because I do plan to continue writing, and I kind of wanted to start as soon as I was able to. I wish this could be a career for me. I know it's probably not going to. I made a video explaining why, and it's not doing super well, so I linked it above, probably. So if you could just give that a watch after this one, that would really help me out. I feel like if I wait another 6 years for some magical signal in the sky, I'll edit my book to death and it'll never leave my laptop. It gives me so much like joy and like hope that someone out there completely detached from me and my circle might read it and enjoy it, and maybe they'll get something out of it. And it is a risk that I'm willing to tie my name to. And I think that if you're another young creative, like musician, artist, whatever, I don't think that you should wait either to start experimenting and putting your stuff out. Plus, it's a lot easier to make excuses like, oh, I was young, I didn't really know what I was doing, if you produce bad work than when you're an adult, you know? So as for what the story is actually about, so Universe Gone Awry, as the story's called, I was talking about it earlier, how it was like started out as a really disorganized, jumbled mess. It vaguely followed the thread of protagonist from Earth has to save this fantasy world, which I ended up turning into something more complex once I rediscovered my project. It's about Isavna Belanis, that's the main character's name, and she's a girl from Earth, and she's captured by this dying goddess from this other world, and Isavna is trained to fight in a war that isn't hers. Said dying goddess and the other side of the conflict aren't fully good nor fully evil, and that's basically the whole point of the story. The goddess who brings her there believes that she's protecting balance, but the other side believes that he's restoring something that was taken from him. The story relies on Isavna deciding if she's the savior that the goddess says she is, the outsider that the world says she is, or neither of those. And she has to decide who to save and what to protect. I really wanted to go past the chosen one trope that the book initially started out with during its infancy, just because I think that on its own is kind of overdone. It's about portal fantasy, reluctant hero, and found family, and morally gray villains, and other stuff. I won't give it all away. It does have like the classic fantasy stuff without being like medieval high fantasy. It's about war, different universe, and I made the lore fleshed out, like the world building fleshed out, but it's not overly complicated. It has possession, pretty high stakes battles, I'd say, and divine politics going on. But I also wanted to make it grounded, because it's really hard to relate to characters if they're going through something completely different and making choices completely different than what you would make. It's a world so similar to our own. Isavna is a young adult, about like 18, 19, so she experiences the world with teenage confusion in a way that doesn't make her seem melodramatic or inept, but also not overpowered either. That's something that's really bugged me about like some fantasy. It's like 14-year-old character goes save the world, makes decisions that an adult would make. The juxtaposition of being young and inexperienced while having to deal with large conflicts and moral politics is what causes most of the quieter moments in the book. But it is character driven at its core. The book has been my outlet to explore questions I've had about uncertainty when things get rough, grief and loss, not knowing where I belong growing up as a first-gen Mexican-American myself, and the power of retaining hope in a world filled with uncertainty. All of that results in a portal fantasy that's a little more mature than YA, but not quite adult. I wouldn't say that yet. I don't think I'm mature enough as a writer to write something that complex. it isn't exactly like a light read, like it's not all happiness, but it's not like grimdark either, if that makes sense. So that's all I have for you. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for upcoming information on A Universe Gone Awry, like the cover reveal, which I hope I put at the end of this video or post it somewhere, but the truth is that I'm so nervous that it doesn't look good enough. But I don't know, I feel like it's okay to just post it and then like get like any backlash that I would get, and then make the edits later on to make it as best as it can be. If I do post it, criticism is welcome, but please don't be too mean. And pre-order, which is coming up really soon. I'm planning to release this book in like late March. I haven't narrowed down a date yet, but it is coming like super soon. If you want to support an author that is against AI, doesn't use AI for her work, it would be much appreciated. Thank you very much. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Oh, there's a group of Canada geese over there. I wish I'd brought my binoculars. Oh, and a red-winged blackbird. Hey, editing Elena here. If you're watching this, and that means I decided to woman up and do the cover reveal. So what you see like spread out like that, it's like the side with the title on it, that's the front, and the other side with the words on it, that's the back. There's a lot of blank space on the bottom of the back because I still need to put like the ISBN and all that stuff there, and I'm hoping to do that later. And I do need to still need to do like the spine, but I need to like calculate how long it's gonna be because of how many words there's gonna be. So still waiting on that. But I did finish, I hope, the actual cover itself. And so here it is. I'll probably also put up like an actual like picture up on the screen so you can see it, because it looks kind of blue this way. But I am looking for feedback if you're willing to give it, as long as it's not just like the cover sucks. Like I need stuff that's like kind of actionable. But yeah, thank you. Keep in mind this is DIY. I do not have money to pay for a cover designer right now. So that is all for you this time. Thank you. Also, I did want to say that I am past the hard part of junior year, and so I do intend on kind of going full force and doing more stuff on Instagram and updating the website and things like that as we get closer to release date, and I'm gonna have that all linked below. So if you would like to see that, if you would like to follow the Instagram, please, and subscribe to the newsletter, because I am going to be giving the prologue and the first chapter for free, but only to newsletter subscribers. I don't spam. I honestly do not have time for spam. I do not know how those people do it. I'm a one-man team here. If you could subscribe too, that would be great. It would really help me out here. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching.